Recording is on.
Welcome to DXgov governance discussion for Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. Starting on the proposal roundup, again, so we have two different bases now. So going through the mainnet first and then looking at the XDAI. So we've seen a big decline in the number of mainnet proposals. That's from gas costs and also because we've been switching so many of the proposals to XDAI. There is right now one Treasury diversification proposal. I think that's to a USDT that'll go through in like the next day. There's a Gen member balancer reimbursement to Geronimo. This was to get some XGen over to the XDAI base. I think it was 15,000 Gen so that we can have holographic consensus run and operate there. And then this is a proposal to just reimburse that using the member balancer format. And then there is a proposal to deposit 250 ETH into Swapper on XDAI. And I think this is we've been doing a lot of different Swapper liquidity proposals and moving to XDAI proposals. I think this is like the first one that's not necessarily a testing, but a really more of like a business or strategic move, because this 250 ETH would be divided across 4 pairs before being bridged over to XDAI and then deposited on Swapper liquidity into Swapper on XDAI. So those are the 3 main ones right now on mainnet. There was also like a rep boost at the bottom that I think Sky was reaching out, and there's another payment that we need to work at. But anyone else kind of the mainnet proposals, anything to comment on? I guess there's not a Omen release. Is there Omen release proposal on the multi-call? I actually didn't.
There is one. Still no one voted on it.
I'm just looking at that now.
Right.
I forget because that's in the multi-call, but it's an ENS update, right?
Right. The reason why it's in the multi-call now is because we batch 2 actions on chain, which means updating the Omen main domain and the subdomain xdai.omen.eth at once. Basically trying to save money.
Yeah. And it saves money, but it is a little bit longer.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I should have included that on the agenda. So that's something to vote on too. And then I expect probably today 2 more proposals coming probably from mainnet this week. One will be another Treasury diversification proposal, just kind of continually doing those. And then 2 will be another deposit of DAI on XDAI base, just as a reimbursement, or not a reimbursement, I guess a refunding or topping off after some of the XDAI on there has been withdrawn by workers because they're getting paid there now. A lot of the liquidity we've been moving to XDAI has been specific for Swapper. So I think we want to make sure that liquidity, we could have some funds there for Swapper, but also make sure we have enough DAI or XDAI to do worker payments on XDAI. So those 2 proposals should be coming this week on mainnet.
Yeah, and for Treasury diversification, I think it might make sense to start thinking about what the next authorization proposal should be. Like, I think we should continue to acquire stable coins and increase the percentage of the Treasury that's in stable assets.
Yeah, I agree. So I think we'll probably, at the minimum, we'd be on this same steady pattern for, I think, another like little less than 2 weeks. But yeah, we should figure out what we want there. And I think there's diversification, but there's also like, what would we be doing with that? Do we need it for strategic reasons? Like, do we want it on Swapper, right? We're using for that, or where are we going to put it? Because I think now that we have some stable coins in the Treasury, we should be thinking about like getting a yield on those, or exactly how they'll fit. So I think both of those are part of that.
Just very short, there was some discussion about UST and USD, SUSD, and I think maybe we should just ask what people want to have as a salary, because then we may end up holding these stable coins like for a long time because people don't request them.
Yeah. And so just to set the table, so the original Treasury diversification proposal was $3 million spread across 4 different stable coins, DAI, USDC, USDT, and SUSD. The thinking being just to diversify across many stable coins as possible, and also because those would probably be used for a swapper liquidity pool. But I think there's been some legitimate kind of pushback on both SUSD and USDT as like whether we really need those as part of like the portfolio, especially when we don't have as a specific need, like we're going after like this pool, we know it for right now. I think we should definitely revisit this going forward, like once we've kind of concluded this round. I think the question is, should we still do proposals on diversifying into SUSD and USDT until we reach the 3 million number that we originally set out, which would mean I think about another 400,000 SUSD and another 400,000 USDT, or do we just want to like start accumulating the other stable coins?
Just about that, we don't end up, if people don't request USDT, then we keep like the USDT in the treasury, and I think it's one of the riskier ones.
So Martin, one thing on that, like if we have $700,000 of USDT, like there's a number of things we can do that. If people don't want to get paid in USDT, that's fine. We can either have a swapper pool, we could put USDT into Compound, we could put USDT into YEarn. Like there's a lot of things you can do with actual USDT. So it doesn't hurt to have some USDT, even if people don't want to get paid in it, right?
Yeah, that's true. But, it's okay.
Yeah, so I think let's stick with the plan that we have, like the 3 million, get those ratios, figure out what we want to do with them, just hold them, put them to work, or use them for swapper pools. And then at the same time, in the next diversification proposal, which I have like a short draft of, and we're just doing that in tandem with tracking. Like Dave is working on like the actual tracking of all of the money movements that DXDAO has done so far. Once we have those two things and you have a good summary, it will help determine how to make the next Treasury diversification proposal. But like, yeah, it's not like if something happens to Tether, like that's going to be a major problem in general, but like something could happen to DAI too. Like, so we don't want to hold all DAI, because if something happens to the maker system, you want the other 3 as well, right? So, and if something happens to synthetics, so it makes sense to have 4 in some manner. But if we're gonna like focus on pools and stuff, and no one cares about SUSD in swapper, then we're not gonna need a lot of SUSDC to put in swapper, right? But with SUSDC, what you can do is you can go to synthetics and you can turn it into SWBTC for free. So it's good to have SUSD at the same time, probably, right?
Yes, but I think you have a little too many S's and C's. I think it's SUSD to SBTC.
Isn't that what I said?
I wrote that. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, so what do people think? I think that's kind of like keep on the same plan. And we do have enough, like we have DAI and USDC are what people are requesting payments in. And if you look on like XDAI, we have about 270,000 DAI on XDAI, and then about 1.5 million USDC and DAI on mainnet. So I think that's like definitely, we definitely have enough for worker payments. So perhaps this guy says we kind of keep going and then we adjust. Cool. Yeah, so that's mainnet, I think. And then looking at XDAI base, there are rep boost for Venki and Snoofkin. Snoofkin's been active in the Discord, and that's matching earlier ones. There are worker proposals. There are liquidity deposit proposals for Swapper on XDAI. And then there is the add tokens to the Swapper list. Before, I want to talk about the rep boost in a second and the worker proposals in a second, but I just wanted to go through the Swapper liquidity proposals first and the token proposals first to see if there's any questions there. Because John, actually, there's a proposal now ready to be executed, and I wasn't sure what the order we need to go to in terms of the Swapper testing. I think if you look right now in the funding and voting power, there is the depositing funds in Swapper liquidity relayer 2 for 32K DAI and 20 ETH. That could go through. I
mean, and so the general plan here was to start small with a test deposit and do a withdrawal. So there's a 2 WETH or X WETH and about, I think, 3,600 wraps XDAI that's already been deposited into the relayer. And also what recently passed was the order to deposit that into Swapper. And I actually just executed that one. And so after this call, was actually going to do the Oracle updates and see, get that actually into Swapper. So then the general plan here was to start with that test, see that we can actually pull it out, and then ramp up to get the full 75 WETH and equivalent amount of XDAI into Swapper, right? So there's 3 steps. Oh, sorry, there's a thunderstorm coming. I'm hearing the rain on the window. There's 3 steps. So the second one is that 32,000 XDAI and 20 WETH that just passed. So there was a little wrinkle in this plan though. When we were doing the multi-sig testing over the weekend, we realized that you actually need to have the owner of the relayer call the order execution when withdrawing funds. This is actually just a public function that can be called when depositing funds, but when withdrawing, it needs to be the owner, and that was a slight oversight in our plans. So there is a proposal that's boosted. Can you guys hear the rain, or is it? It's not interfering.
It's not
It's not interfering. This right? Okay. Houston weather. So there is a one that is called execute test unpool liquidity order that's got about 2 days left to pass in the generic scheme. That is the one we need to actually complete the withdrawal, right? So I think if we wanted to be extra safe, you wouldn't actually pull the trigger on that funding one for the 20 WETH. But I don't have any reason to think that there'd be a problem. Things went well on mainnet. Things went well in testing and RinkB, et cetera. So I think to actually follow that step plan, we could hold off on this one. Personally, I don't think it's the end of the world if we try to do that. I think it should be fine. But
and obviously, anyone could
pull that. So it's not gonna. It's probably gonna happen. I'm not too worried about that. I think the third one, the bigger one, which is the 75,000 XDAI, would be after the test completion anyways. So yeah. I am also in the middle of writing a guide on how to do these proposals. And so I will be sharing that probably on DAO Talk, hopefully today, so that basically anybody could feel comfortable making these kinds of proposals.
We're hearing something. Yeah, there's something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then that last, I'm just looking at the third relayer proposal that it will go through in 3 days and 20 hours. That's the 53 WETH and 75,000 XDAI. Once that goes through, that will stay in Swapper. presumably, right? We don't
Well,
have
even the 20 WETH one should stay.
Will
The
stay.
only one that we want to pull out is that two WETH, and then
It's just to test it, right?
So there's no withdrawal. Well, I mean, we could always make a withdrawal proposal. It's getting a little crazy, and get it out later. But there's I don't think there's any really reason to want it to stay in Swapper, right?
Right. So the unpool is like the last test, and then everything else is like, this is gonna just stay as it is, and then so we'll hopefully get that this week, right? So that's like a WETH XDAI pool that is owned by XDXDAO, and like we feel good all about that. Hopefully we can get to the end of this week, and then going back to the mainnet proposals, we have that 250 ETH proposal to fund additional liquidity on Swapper, and that's the one that will be broken down across 4 different pairs: DAI USDC, DPI ETH, and then I think an ETH WBTC pool. So then we'll have 5 total pools that will be owned and providing liquidity by XDXDAO. And then next week, presumably, we'll go through the same process of having to deposit using 2 different proposals per pair to initiate new liquidity on Swapper on XDAI. And so, this is kind of like a bit of a moving game, because now what we need to be thinking about now is like, what is the next batch of liquidity that we want in Swapper on XDAI or mainnet? And like, how do we kind of start thinking about that now so we can get a proposal from mainnet, get the assets, bridge them over, and then we need another separate proposal to get the assets in Swapper on XDAI. So there's a couple different moving parts here.
Yeah, so exactly. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, that's why coming up with a comfort level for what we're totally comfortable with on XDAI, because it is a risk, right? And like just getting the money there, like, and assuming that we know we're gonna want to have it there, let's like, even in big chunks, like in theory you could do $1 million at a time, right? And just getting the assets onto XDAI, because otherwise it's going to be make the process over twice as long when we want to actually act on XDAI. So like getting assets over there is key, I think, which we are planning to do, right? We're doing it slowly.
Yeah.
Oh, so more and more, so Artis is doing the token offering on Gnosis, right? That Martin had shared on, like, Gnosis's first auction will be Artis blockchain token, which is Minerva wallet. House just did theirs on XDAI. So the more and more tokens are realizing it sucks on mainnet. Okay, we're not like some giant major DeFi project. Let's do our sales. Let's do our liquidity, like our DAOs on XDAI. They all need pools, and so they're at this point they're using HoneySwap, and they're planning to use HoneySwap. But we can take that over, especially if we have the bridge to mainnet, because HoneySwap doesn't have that. So these tokens are going to be they're mainnet tokens, which will be mainly used on XDAI. So you need the pools, a swapper pool on XDAI, but then with the ability to move to mainnet if community needs. So I think Swapper is well positioned for that, and it will be super cool. So if we can bootstrap and incentivize and get them to farm some of those on Swapper and have the connection to mainnet Swapper, that solves a problem that more and more projects are gonna need, which is pretty cool.
Definitely. And I think another like aspect of this is like winning the pools, like being the best pool to trade on in a specific chain, right? So like I think what we've done on these like product strategy calls is like look at what's happening on HoneySwap, and now like BowSwap is another one. So kind of trying to kind of keep an eye on the market there. And it becomes this biz dev effort basically, right? How do we strategically place liquidity? How do we make the right partnerships to attract liquidity?
Definitely. Cool. Yeah, and as John said, we'll probably the product strategy we'll talk a bit more about next, the next steps and kind of where the pairs will be. So be able to look out there. Any ideas, bring them there. Next, just wanted to go over the worker proposals. So there's one for level K that has already been that is in the queue. I think is slated to pass, and then there was one for Augusto that had been boosted. I think had been downstaked, and so I know there was a discussion in the Keybase, and I wasn't sure if there was any resolution or way to move forward. I guess Augusto is just, I think, rejoined the call. He was on the beginning, so. Anything else in terms of moving forward? I think that the discussion was that there were two proposals kind of put together, and then some additional discussions on the Augusto's time over the first 2 months of that worker scope.
Right, I downstaked it. So like, yeah, and for the record, so there's Augusto put a post onto DAO Talk. I don't know if he wants to speak to that, but I had responded to DAO Talk, I think it was yesterday or the day before. And even prior to that response, I had pinged Augusto just to let him know what my thoughts were on that proposal. So when I saw that it was upstaked this morning, I downstaked it to kind of reflect that I did not feel that the points that I had raised have been resolved. And I think there's also this logistical issue of there's two proposals in one proposal, and not really a good reason to be doing that when things are pretty cheap on XDAI.
Hello, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm having bad connection here. There is a big storm, so I'm using my mobile data. Regarding the joint proposal about the payout of the last worker period and creating the next responsibilities and goal for the other working period, I did that because that's how I did the last time on mainnet, and yes, I agree that I should have made two proposals different. I didn't realize when I was creating it, but yeah, you're right, John. It's super cheap, so I'm going to be separating in two proposals, but the proposals are not changing. I'm not going to change them, and here it might I might raise another concern that I think there is a huge how can I say, a huge misunderstanding of if we are going to measure other workers proposals or goals, and how are we going to do it? Because the way I do it is that I set some goals, I try to accomplish those goals, and that's it. If I manage to accomplish them, I get paid. But now seems that is not enough for the other workers like John and Geronimo, who express their concerns, and I don't share them. And also, besides that, if I feel like if I don't agree with where I should work with Hero and John, I cannot be working for DXgov. Like I feel like they are pushing me on what should I be working on what they feel that is most useful for DXgov, and they have the power even to do it because both of them they share. I think they should have like 10% reputation, which even though I think they are not going to execute it and to use it, this is even this proves my concern that I started working here to work on things that I wanted to work on that I feel that are useful for DXgov, like DXvote. That is where I want to work the most, and to work with other projects like this Rinkeby on Mesa, like pay with new swapper features using DXvote, like we did test the DXD halt and unpause on Rinkeby using DXvote, and create the next governance platform for us. But seems that is not our priority anymore, and for example, it's like Omengil, and I should be working pure and only on Omengil, where the only thing I think I have to do is to write a smart contract for the Omengil, and I'm waiting for the requirements from Pulp and Hero, and I added on DAO Talk that I commit myself to write the contracts on that, even though that seems that is not enough. And I haven't been working enough on the past 2 months, even though I accomplished my past goals. So yeah, it will be awesome to hear what other workers think, because it seems like everyone is like, there is a big silence in the room where they are the only ones talking for me.
Let me just follow up on one thing you said here, Augusto, that you accomplished your goals, because I'm looking at your proposal that I voted for. I remember there, some people were criticizing you, and I defended you in December. I defended you against DAOstack. I defended you against others who thought your proposal was a bad idea, right? And your goals were, 1, DXvote DApp on official release on Ring. I think that it has been done, but who here has actually used it or even looked at it? 2, the DXtrust DApp version 0.3.0 official release, RinkB and mainnet. We are not using that on mainnet. I'm not really sure why it's even needed, to be honest. DXvote and DXtrust continuous integration, private such. So again, that ties into the vote and trust that are not being used yet. And yeah, the final thing is like the DXD guild. And I know, and I will acknowledge that you did do some work on the monitoring tools, and that is valuable, but I mean, that does not account for the time that's missing.
Right, like there are 2 things. First, the promised work, like the question is, has Augusto delivered the promised work? And especially like, did he commit the 60% full-time work? And that's something everyone here in this call should evaluate themselves, right? This is how I do it, and this is how John did it. And everyone has their right to vote and should vote accordingly. And the second question is like, how does the collective deal with like very very external workers like Augusto, who doesn't have a working group like I do have with the Omen Guild, where we do checks ourselves and like constantly know that like basically everyone is working. And I'm like, after someone did the work, I'm like totally sure that they definitely did the work because I'm constantly working with them. But how does the collective deal with like Augusto, who's like very specialized in smart contract development, who likes to define his own goals and basically work on his own? How does the collective check that he's actually delivered the work he promised, and especially like the time duration he committed to?
Yeah. So the tricky thing is we're doing the time duration like full-time workers and stuff, and so you can do a percentage of that, which a number of people have done, and that's just like time. That's based on time, when really in this scenario it seems more like a specific project, such as we hired a couple external dev shops to like do a set project for us, and like the one with BlockRock, it's quite slow. They're working on it. They're theoretically keeping track of hours, and that's kind of how they'll charge. I mean, they have a pre-agreed rough idea of price and how many hours it will take, but it's not it's a separate project task, and it's not a full-time worker. So they're not getting paid in a similar manner as full-time worker. They may be, that we have a designer who is getting paid an external designer who's getting paid his design compensation for like a month of design work, which is outside of the full-time worker. So the guy's not earning rep. The guy he's working outside of the normal structures that we've laid out. And what's interesting is there's lots of other DAOs that are actually using the structure that DXDAO created, like Yam, like people that work for Yam and SushiSwap, like have based their salaries basically off of like what DXDAO has formally put like a structure out around workers. But at the same time, there are other people that are not going to fit into that structure. So I don't know the answer. It's an open question, but in this scenario, it seems like Augusto for this last 2 months is not fitting into the normal full-time worker structure, and like the some percentage of full-time work is not even like applicable in this situation. But we didn't know that when he did that, and we don't know what the answer is now. So that's just my observation.
Exactly. I'm not keeping track of how much time MB is on the chair. I propose these goals where I think I accomplish, I think most of them, and even that during that worker period, I did other things outside my responsibilities, like helping and having some calls with Tammy and Kero about creating the Omen gear for the ERC20 deal contracts. So some other work appear, and the ERC20 gears. Well, I think John can support me on this. After the audit, it requires some work because I even found other issues, and it ended up requiring a bit more time to work on it. So I don't see why do we have to be so strict on someone who say, oh, you didn't fulfill everything on your goals. While I was helping on other parts of DXgov, while I wasn't able to fulfill like 100% all my goals.
There were 2 weeks in January where you did absolutely nothing, Augusto. I don't think I'm being particularly strict here.
Well, I was working like you. I mean, if you see the commits later that were pushed, they were submitted with 2 weeks delay. But during that time, I was on my cabin working alone because I didn't have enough time to connect and to chat with you guys. I just sit here and encode it. Anyway, seems like
I encourage everybody to go look at the Git history and verify what Augusto is saying.
So did anyone do it already? Like me as a non-coder, and especially non-Solidity coder, I went through all his commits, which also took time from me, which I could have spent on like a lot of other shit. But I need to do it, and everyone needs to do it. Like even Chris, who's like probably never dealt with like Solidity, might need to look into the code, like the work delivered, and I think everyone should look at it and like again evaluate Augusto's work.
Even though is that what you are evaluating, or you are evaluating if I reach my goals or not? Because that is what you should be evaluating.
So that's two questions that I think we do need to talk about in setting expectations, because we kind of did this whole thing with the workers, the contributor guidelines. Are you going to be a full-time employee? Are you going to be a contractor working on a specific project? If we need to, the only way to base this off of is like our mutual understanding is, and it's like what we put in writing and what we say in our worker proposals. And if we say we're going to work, on a part-time basis, and we understand that like certain goals might not be met, but that you're working, 50% of your time. So that means you're checking in with everyone, maybe not too much. I know everyone has different working styles, but I just feel like we need to be as clear about like what we put in the proposal. And if circumstances change, then update the group. Otherwise, we need to do, like if there's a certain project that we need to complete a goal, like with BlockRocket, it needs to state this is a project we're trying to complete. This is within 3 months. It's just like normal contract law. Like you just state what you're going to accomplish in your thing. And we know that not everything is going to be accomplished, but you are a part-time worker, which of course in any traditional, and maybe we're non-traditional, but this is a work setting, we've got to check in with one another, or we have to say, hey, we're offline or whatever, just some sort of, loose update with like the right people.
Yeah, 100%, Tammy. Yeah, like we saw it a little bit with, I raised the point that Augusto wasn't available on Keybase, and then he basically said like, I didn't put that on his worker proposal. And that's something where I was a little bit confused because like no one included that in their worker proposals, but it's basically like common sense that if you work with like a distributed collective, that's like basic part of it, that you're communicating with others and actually are available if people depend on you.
Yeah, just to take a step back, because so we are really talking about, so this proposal we have now, it sounds like it's already downstaked, and I don't imagine, I'm not sure if anyone's going to upstake it anymore, and Augusto kind of said himself that he wants to split this into two different proposals, right? So with the current proposal, that kind of seems to have sailed, so we're kind of talking about what would come next. I imagine there would be two different proposals, one that's forward-looking, and for that, the discussion is really around Augusto focusing on the Omen Guild and whether that's kind of something to focus on, or whether that's a priority of DXDAO. And I actually think there's like pretty good agreement on that now, right? That's kind of where both with what DXDAO wants and I think what Augusto wants in terms of like building like the Omen Guild. So that's like the proposal that would presumably be for like March and April going forward. Now, the second part of this, because we divide the current proposal is divided into two, is the second half of the last proposal, right? And so this is where those goals and worker percentage times were committed to. And so I guess the question there is, so I think the first half of that proposal has been paid out, right? Because he submitted the proposal for 2 months scope and then requested the first half of month. And this one is for the second half of month. So I think the question is, when there is a disagreement on someone's performance over that period, what do we do with the second half of that payment, right? Is that something that we say, like, just vote down and say if we have some disagreement with that worker that like they don't receive any of that type of payment, or do we figure out like a way to voice concerns about like shortcomings that a contributor might have? But like, how do we like voice those concerns? Maybe even provide some disincentives, or but like, I guess like, what is the way that we like find a solution to this? Because like the only really like solution when we're thinking about like the solutions are proposals in this, right? So the solution is somehow is got to be structured around what do we do about the second half of Augusto's last worker proposal, right? And then what do we do kind of going forward?
Yeah, so I think if there's like a contentious final payment proposal, as we see now, then I think like Augusto needs to ask himself like what's going on and see if that proposal passes or not. If it's not passing, there is an issue, right? And then I think the next step would be that he's actually posting on DAO Talk about his final proposal and asking for like why it actually failed, and then the people who voted it down or staked down needs to like come out and actually explain what's going on. And then I like the best. At the end of the day, everyone kind of wants to come to a point where both just accept how to proceed, right?
Yeah, so
like Augusto's expecting a path forward, and we're also expecting a path forward.
Yeah, in the real world, the way that you would, if you were working at a company, it'd be like, you got an evaluation. Augusto, we're evaluating Augusto right now. Okay, he did most of his tasks in his proposal. Some are still not finished. Like in the real world, you still get paid, but then you're like, it's well communicated that like, it would be awesome if you could make sure that those tasks that are not completed get completed in addition to for example, what you're going to work on the next month, like the Omen Guild, for example. So like, instead of just leaving those uncompleted, I think you probably want to get them completed too, right? Maybe it's taken longer than expected, or there was some timing things didn't match up. But like, as long as you commit to like completing the things that you said that are really needed for DXDAO, which you already did most of, and you're going to also contribute to what DXDAO needs for Omen Guild going forward. Like if that's like if you commit to that in your next proposal, like that, then like as long as it's communicated, I think that's the most important thing, is the communication. It's almost like an evaluation, but you know, it's a DAO evaluating rather than like your boss evaluating you at a company, right? Yeah.
This is one of the problems this is one of the problems that I saw, that the judgment, I think, is heavily weighted by John and Geronimo's opinion, and then there is a lot of sadness in the room whether if I should be paid or not. And another issue that I see is that I have to work on something that other, like, only both of them express it, that hey, the Omen Guild is important, and I commit myself, and I add on that talk, I commit myself to write the contract from the Omen Guild, but seems like that is not enough, that I should work entirely on something else that I don't want to work on. So the path moving forward, as the way I see it, will be I submit a proposal for my next working period where I say on what I work on, or what I want to work, that is mainly DXgov, and try to finish that. And well, of course, help on the ERC20 Guild stuff, write the contract for the Omen Guild. And that is, if that is not enough, they are going to devote me, and I'm not going to be working for DXgov anymore.
Yeah, that's like a very important question about, like, Augusto is a very specialized has a very specialized skill set. It's difficult to find someone like Augusto who can actually deliver all the things we need for the Omen Guild. How does the collective deal with people like Augusto who have their own goals and their own, like, project goals? For him, DXvote, which in my view, it's my personal view, has very low priority right now for the collective, because from my point of view, the Omen Guild is very important, and I don't know anyone else who can work on the Omen Guild right now. So I'm dependent on Augusto for the guild.
I guess, isn't Augusto saying that he works on Omen Guild and DXvote?
Right, but there's, like, the danger that Augusto is prioritizing DXvote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking, where do you, I mean, it's not in writing anywhere about the Omen Guild, and I mean, Augusto just said that the proposal would be the same. The top priority is DXvote. So, I mean,
yes, but
yeah, I don't
the
think,
Omen Guild.
Yeah.
Writing the Omen Guild, it just, for me, it will be write the smart contract. You guys send me the requirements. I write the smart contract for the Omen Guild. We do the audit, and then you guys use it. That's it. I commit. I can do it. That's the whole idea of what I write in the guilds. If you need a guild for DXgov, you pass the requirements for me. I write it. We audit it, and we use it. And you guys can implement it on any DApp. I think you have the skills and you have the resources to implement the smart contract usage on a DApp. You don't need me for that. And I added on the DAO talk post on my worker proposal, and there is a comment where the concern about the Omen Guild was expressed, and I committed myself. There is a comment there that I commit to write a smart contract for the Omen Guild. As soon as you pass me the requirements, I leave anything I have, anything I'm doing, and I set 100% to finish that, and then I continue with my stuff, with working on DXvote, on finishing DXRAS, on my other responsibilities. I don't mind doing that.
So we're decentralized, right? So I have Level K has 5.1% of the rep on mainnet. Augusto, how much rep do you have on mainnet? 2 something, right? A little less than 3?
Yeah, 2.6, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you wanted to kind of beat my opinion, right? Because my opinion is that DXvote is not a priority for DXDAO, and that if we are paying anybody to do anything, it should be in line with the priorities that the rest of the workers think are important, right? So if you think I'm wrong, it doesn't take too much. You got to find a couple more percent to beat me, right? There's several people in this call that would be enough to get you above me, right? There's probably even some people out there that individually could beat me, right? So I don't have the power to single-handedly beat you, but like, what makes you think that DXvote is a priority? Who here have you talked to that has expressed that DXvote is a priority?
It's my personal opinion. I mean, I've been working on that.
So what is centralized about this decision making?
Well, I would just say, okay. So first of all, I think
we talked about it on December, why DXO is so important.
So I think in general, like we're literally like debating like worker proposal inclusions, right? So I think this is best done through the forum. Like certain people have opinions on what should be in Augusto's worker proposal. Augusto obviously will be writing and eventually doing it, so we can solve those, I think, specifically on that. I, for one, will say, I think it's very important that DXDAO owns its own governance stack and has a voting interface that is easy to read and use. And I think that's like a huge priority that can be balanced with other like priorities we have. But I think like anything that is contributing to us,
it's important, but it's not a priority above several other things that need to be done.
Yeah,
if you want to actually deliver any kind of value, it's pretty low down the list.
And at the end of the day, looking back the past 2 months, Augusto worked on that stuff and the collective is still not using it, right? At the end of the day, we want to have our own Alchemy version because Alchemy is going to die. And I'm not saying DXvote is like dead and should be like Augusto shouldn't work on it. The main question is like,
great way to end it, Geronimo.
I had to mute.
Wait, so, John, I'm confused. I thought the Omen Guild is going to leverage like DXvote and the ERC20 guilds and all that technology to make the Omen Guild vote, no?
No, DXvote is unrelated to any of our ongoing product efforts.
Governance is not a product?
Sorry,
governance is not a product, John?
What about
not yet. Who's using our governance?
Well, I use Alchemy all the time. All the time.
But that's first of all, that's not our governance. That's DAO Stack's platform. And yes, we do use it.
Yeah.
But no, governance is not a product, Chris. Where is governance a product?
No, I'm just saying, like, I think, like, it's very important that we have a good governance interface because that's what we use all the time. And so I'm just, like, I think.
And have you used DXvote? Do you think it's ready anywhere
I have looked
near?
at DXvote.
Do you think it's anywhere near going live?
I have looked at DXvote, and I've been following the progress. I've been following Augusto's worker proposal, and I've read all of it. I think everyone's making, like, good points. I think that DXvote needs, from the last time I looked at it, I mean, it was, like, wireframes, and it had like a couple good things, but I just want a better governance interface.
You know what I want, Chris? I want Omen to be successful. I want Swapper to be successful. I want Mesa to be successful. And I want the DXD holders that have held all this time and have a token that's a third of the book value of DXDAO to actually realize some upside. And I wonder if Augusto has put a single thought into that. And I encourage everybody to talk to each other about what the priorities of the DAO should be.
All right. We should, Augusto, unless you have anything else you want to say, just want to move on because we're.
No. I have to say that, yes, I thought about it, and that is what I want to create DXvote, because I think governance is, like John said, is the glue that is joining all our projects together. And we raised the concerns about having our own governance process, our own governance platform in December, and I think we kind of all agree on it. But now seems like for John, other things are more important, which is fine. It's his opinion, but again, John's opinion has a lot of weight in the community, in this group. Lots of people listen to him, so.
Augusto, I actually talked to other people in the group. So it's not just my opinions. I'm actually having conversations with other people. Have you had conversations with other people here about what the priorities are?
No, I'm just working on my stuff.
Exactly. You're by yourself doing whatever you want, and you want to get paid for it.
Guys, this is the forum. You guys are. This is like this. All right.
I want to say something maybe to just conclude. This is kind of like a happy thing that I'm thinking. Like, even though this is sort of heated, like this really makes me bullish on DXDAO in general, just because, you know, it's trailblazing these sort of checks and balances for the governance system. And, you know, one thing that's apparent in not just DXDAO, in all DAOs is, you know, alignment and making sure that everybody is kind of aligned in the long term or even in the short term for, you know, what we're supposed to do. And I don't know, this is just, I think it's good at the end of the day. And, you know, if, you know, the question of should we need a governance system, that this should be a priority, this should, you know, be discussed. But just in general, I think this is healthy and makes me more bullish.
We have to figure out a way to evaluate. Like, this is all this is. It's like evaluating, adjusting, and like, you know, I'm going to do bad things that I want people to like tell me and give me feedback, and like, so I can correct and like get better. So I don't know. This is, yeah, it's all part of like a process where we're trying to figure out how to do this in a whole new way.
Right. Yeah. And like one of the processes, like Augustus level 5 commitment has more than 2% rep. Not everyone wants to say something against Augusto, right? Because we are used to, like, Augusto has more to say based on rep amount, and he's like way more skilled based on his commitment level. But everyone, like even small portion of rep should be skeptical, and like especially when like John and me start raising issues about his deliveries. Now it's the time that everyone's going out and checking what he did, and then we see it on Alchemy, and that's the result.
Cool. Yeah, let's move on. I think we've got. Yeah, good. So next topic is Rep Boost. Kind of quickly on this for March, I had two things to say. I had one nomination. Hama, who I think is on Hama is on the call here, who had done some good work in putting together the rep awards that we've had the last like 3 or 4 months, because he had to go through Alchemy and do it one by one. So I'm working on him on trying to like build some more rep data. So I nominated him, and I shared the doc in the community rep, the spreadsheet in the community rep boost post. And then, yeah, I thought it would be also interesting to see if we can get community rep boost involved with the Discord initiative, just because I think we're kind of building a community there. And I know we did Snufkin last month, who's been a great contributor. So Keenan, I don't know if you had any ideas on like how do we do like a monthly rep award to the top contributor on Discord, or any ideas there, or just anyone else?
Yeah, a good idea I had. I have participation-based roles right now. So it'll track the last 3 months of any user's participation in the server and give them a role retroactive to that. I think we could probably tie something related to that, especially with XDAI now, and that there's less fees involved in claiming these things. We don't have to necessarily give the 0.1, or sorry, the 0.1. We could go even lower for if people really want to get involved and are showing that they want to. That being said, it's been, I believe, just over a month and a half since the Discord has been public. We're seeing some good participation. We have a couple people at 4 and 5. It currently goes up to 6, and it's something like 1,000 messages that are unique. And I think that's a really good way to start the process. Now, monthly, it might be a bit difficult. Maybe this is something that we nominate every 3 months, because that's how we're tracking it right now. Alternatively, I could rework it to be a monthly kind of check and balance, but I like it better as a 3 month in case someone, you know, drops off the board for a month and then all of their participation is just missing.
Yeah, and I guess so that just on the Discord quickly, like that competition ended, I guess, so there will be no more like DXD issued to people, or like is there anything left on that?
It concluded. I was about to bring that up, actually. It concluded last Friday, and I've been speaking with the winners and handing out DXD I think I'm almost in the last couple here today. As for the meme competition, we got 30 entries, and I prepared a form that I'll leave in the chat here. It'd be great if everyone that's a full-time worker take a good look. There's some funny ones. I know the manhole one comes to mind for me. Let me get the form here.
Oh yes, I voted earlier, and the memes are in the Discord meme channel. Is that right?
Yeah, I prepared I just numerated the memes for the purpose of voting on them. If you don't have a contributor role, just let me know and I can tag one onto your account so you can see the channels.
Cool.
But yeah, I think that the incentive program went really well. We see a lot of new members, a lot of chatting, participation. I think we should be open to doing something like this either regularly in smaller amounts or farther in between in a bigger kind of bang. But just more interactivity with the community, and these incentives has been great so far.
Cool. Yeah, and so if anyone else has any rep boosts, go to the post is in the forum there. And then just wanted to keep moving along. Next is DXgov governance refunds round number 4. So does anyone know or look what the total spending for 2 months of governance gas refunds is? It's 19.7 ETH. So this is for January and February. So it's like $35,000 for that. So even with some of the decreased amount of votings over that time, it's still a pretty significant chunk. I should add that this is actually not live yet. I don't think he's on the call, but Nico has been doing this in the past, but I've been talking with Dave about trying to take this over and being able to calculate these governance refunds. And we'll switch to like a bi-monthly cadence. So we'll do the contract and the proposal every 2 months. And additionally to that, for those that are multi-sig signers, Dave is also going to divide the gas transactions that are spent for the multi-sig, and the latest proposal into Swapper Liquidity on XDAI actually has a reimbursement attached to it for some of the existing gas costs from that. But we will, of course, still need to have the governance gas refunds on mainnet for all the proposals there. Cool. And then I just wanted to give like quick update because John actually had heard pretty good updates on each of these things yesterday. So we've got like kind of the 3 proposals we're working to, a couple different moving parts on: pause the curve, mainnet liquidity relayer, and DXD buyback updates. And so, John, can you just kind of walk us through where those are at quickly?
Sure, yeah. So let's start with pausing the curve. So Augusto had run some tests that I double checked and verified on Rinkeby, and they worked. So like I think we are basically clear to make that proposal on mainnet if anybody wanted to do it. Maybe there's some timing from the communication side that we want to think about there. If it maybe fits with some kind of communications that want to go around that, we maybe want to coordinate around that. For the DXD buyback, we are currently sort of blocked there because the Gnosis protocol relayer, as some might remember, did not work in its kind of maiden flight on mainnet. A bug was found, and now we're trying to test it more, but running into issues trying to test it. Like it's basically a pretty opaque protocol. Things are not atomic. They happen. You need the solvers. You need OWL liquidity. Gnosis isn't really like, they're supporting it now, but it's not their priority. So we're still trying to test that. I think there's maybe a question now of whether we want to continue that course and try to see that through, or if maybe it makes more sense to adapt like the existing relayers to use, Swapper, let's say. I actually think it might be cool to use Swapper since it's a DXDAO protocol. So kind of more, TBD on the DXD buyback. We're kind of waiting on the technical stuff to be cleared there, but that's being worked on. And what was the last thing? The liquidity.
Swapper mainnet. Yeah, liquidity.
Mainnet liquidity. So there has been a deposit of mainnet liquidity so the multi-sig is owning the relay right now. And once there is a new multi-call scheme that whitelists that relayer, the goal would be for the multi-sig to hand that over to the DXDAO. So yeah, that could take, just installing a new multi-call scheme takes about 17 days to pass. So that's at least a few weeks out. So, I mean, if, the product strategy goals were to do more deposits on mainnet, I think that could still be done through the multi-sig, but we do want to kind of get it back in the hands of the DAO as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point on the, we could still put liquidity into mainnet while the multi-call scheme is being installed, but it'll just get transferred over later. And as kind of Sky was saying, it's good. It takes time to put these things into place. So maybe we do get started before that, and also like testing out some of the other pairs. While also, of course, we'll be putting, when that is being, the multi-call scheme is being installed on mainnet, we're going to be putting more liquidity on XDAI anyway, and building that up.
I mean, speaking of priorities, carrying out the DXD buyback and preparing, the technical stuff for that, that's something that will need attention. And Nico has been working on that. Nico's spread very thin. He's responsible for, Mesa smart contracts. He's been doing the relayer stuff. He's also been helping out a lot on the security. So I know Augusto may want to work on DXgov, but something like the relayer would be something I would advocate for needing attention if we are going to fund anybody to do more work.
Did we have an opinion? We were discussing yesterday in the chat, like we want to have an awesome big DXD ETH pool on Swapper, and that will enable us to do the buyback using Swapper. That will enable us to own that pool. That will bring business to Swapper. We can either wait for farming to be legit and ready to go, or we can literally do what a bunch of projects have done, like UMA and you name it, Balancer, whatever, and start with a manually announced incentive, which includes, a certain period of time, put DXD ETH liquidity into this pool. We're gonna take a snapshot once a week, make sure you haven't gone in and out or moved your liquidity, and we'll protect against some impermanent loss. And the incentives are going to be pretty attractive, so that it should account for could account for the impermanent loss. So, and literally do a manual and do that next week and just get incentive for that pool. And then when farming is ready, we can switch over to the farming platform. But do people think that that's a good idea to do that next week, or to wait to really build that, incentivize that DXD pool? Because actually we're going to need to do a proposal, so that's going to be 7 to 9 days as it is. But we can do a manual program if people are comfortable with that, or should we wait to use our farming product? Does anyone have an opinion on that?
I think we should dive into this on Friday and get an answer then. But I think that this is the kind of the questions we need to be figuring out, because it's balancing a couple things.
Cool.
And then I think that and then just the last two things to kind of keep things going here. One, I haven't done it yet, but I will. I'm going to create a signal proposal for EIP 1559, just to maybe create a little bit of governance discussion. There's been a thread on that over the last week. So if there's any objections, please let me know. And then the last thing is just some updates on like HR recruiting stuff. We've been talking about this a lot the last, or for a while actually, but in the last week there's kind of been, we've revisited it. So I just wanted to kind of do a regroup on where we're at and kind of keep things in a central place. So this post I just posted right before this meeting, kind of two different things. So one, it has what is DXDAO looking for? So there are a couple different documents here. One is the DXDAO open positions Google Doc. So this is an internal one that we can edit. And if there's any squad leader, anyone that needs work or talent or specific position, make sure to put it on that sheet. So that's the Google Doc open positions. There is the open positions PDF on IPFS, which has, I believe, 5 different positions, maybe 6 positions in a single document and a brief description about DXDAO and what we're looking for in the roles. And that's on IPFS, and that's what's like linked to in, we link to in like Twitter, or if you're just sending someone who's interested in a bunch of different roles. And then there are individual job description PDFs also hosted on IPFS for like the 5 main positions we're kind of looking for here. So hopefully those are like a central hub. And then if we need to make updates, we can do that to the open positions Google Doc that is also in this thread. There has been some like pretty good progress, I think, on some of these. So we have, I think, 2 different people were thinking about maybe getting some help on the HR from Keenan and Tammy. I think I've seen them both in the Keybase, so that's something there. Fluid Drop or Dave has been helpful and is completing his the end of his 2nd week on the Treasury accounting position. I think has done some great work there. Machina has been doing a lot of great work on Omen and just like marketing stuff, a lot of like the Twitter stuff. So I think we've been making some good progress, but I think we just need to constantly be thinking about it. And so hopefully those docs will be a good way for what are people looking for. And then separate to that is like, how do we filter the process or get things coming in? And this is tough because like we don't have an easy way to do this. We don't have like a central way where we can like host resumes and filter them or something like that. But I think the way that I was suggesting here is if like someone, we've sent out the document that they're open position and they're interested in an open position, like what to do next, or someone contacts Martin on Twitter and they're like, well, I need to do next. I definitely think we're having like a roadblock there, and I think it's tough to get to an instant decision quickly. And I think it's okay for us to be picky, but we want to be able to engage that candidate and make sure there's something that they can potentially consume. And yeah, so I think kind of the 3 steps that I think are best, and I think would be able to filter this out is, so 1, send them the contributor guidelines and how we work. This was a document actually Martin put together. So this just kind of gives them, a whole lay of the land for DXDAO. So that's kind of the first step. Second is they should make an introduction in the Keybase introductions channel. And then third, they should attend a call that's relevant to them. If they're attend the developer call. If they're a biz dev person, attend the biz dev call or engage with that call in some way. I will do a better job of monitoring the introductions channel on Keybase to make sure that we, like, when things go in there, that we have some way of like contacting and making sure that they're invited to a call. But I do think like we're always going to have a lot of flow, and it's going to be hard for us to filter it. So I think requiring some like proof of work or proof of effort really on the candidate is best. And I think really it's like read the docs, introduce yourself in Keybase, and sit in on a call, and then like see what happens, because it's kind of, it's hard to make everything happen at once, but we really want to be only dealing with people that I think have gone through those initial steps. So thoughts, questions, concerns, additions?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how much should we be concerned about someone's motivation to work here? what if someone just wants to work for money, doesn't really give a shit like about the rest of it?
Well, I think I want, this is speaking for myself, with people that are like, both I'm looking for people, and also like if you're sending someone my way, if I'd say yay or nay, I want people who get DXDAO, right? And like that encompasses, you know, a lot of different things. Probably someone who's just looking to get a paycheck, like that's probably not a good fit. But there are a lot of people like working with DXDAO who are like trying to build cool things, make money, and you know, hopefully we can find a fit. But it is, I do think we do want like people who get it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem. Like this, it's so like there is like not many people who are like that. Like to get it and to be a senior developer, like it's like almost impossible, like in my opinion.
Yeah, I like Federico's.
What one thing we should consider is having like a Trello board with tasks that could be used for like first timer, both dev and like non-dev. Badger DAO has this with surprisingly Ingamar managing. So yeah, like use this as an example.
Yeah, I like
also,
that.
So far the DXgov was pretty good in filtering out like all of those actors who just want to get money and doesn't care about the collective, right? Like remember the Chinese workers, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, my take is we need like people who have knowledge in crypto and blockchain, also if they are non-tech people, because otherwise I think it's very hard to understand what kind of mindset we have. And this is maybe a big issue if you want to onboard like non-tech people. And for the tech people, I think they have, of course, they need to know about crypto, and I think also they have to be into the DAO in a way, and this means they have to understand that we are not like a normal employee. We are just we are different, and in a way, everyone. And now I have some new contacts right now, and what I see, people should really be able to try to identify where they can add value. And this is not an easy task. It's difficult. But I think that the good people who want to work with us, they should be able to see what's missing in a way. And it takes some time to find this spot. But if you are interested, I think you should be able to identify in a way what's missing. Because I think these people, they will stay a long time with us. Other people, they will just drop out if they have new opportunities. And it's too much work in a way to, not to onboard, but I did see how I like the team forming, how the team was formed on Mesa, and it's not an instant success. So people need time to join a team and to see how we work. And so it's an investment from the DXDAO. And so if people just drop out, we lose this investment. And yeah, I would rather recommend to get the right people and grow slowly than have like many people and then a lot of noise and dropouts, and people lose energy on this. Oh no, stop. I don't want to complain. Yeah, that's from my side.
Definitely. Yeah, I like the identify what's missing. And I think about that just looking around people here. A lot of people in what they ended up doing and focusing on, they were involved enough to realize there was a gaping hole and then like started to fill it. And even like Martin, like even you kind of were jumping on calls, kind of seeing what's going on at DXDAO. And then it's like, oh, like Mesa is here. Like no one is really kind of taking charge. And like you can only see that once you kind of get involved and you like kind of understand things. So like, yeah, it really is. It's like finding people that can like fill in the gaps, and you have to know the gaps. And that's like, that's like the hard part. But I think we can be picky, right? And like,
yeah, it's hard, but other thing, I also think sometimes there are good people out there who don't, they are not able to go behind these steps. I don't, because they're not so social or they're not, not.
Yeah, I think hopefully once we
people,
get
we all miss them.
HR person filled, someone who can really, walk people through and get them through this big first challenge and just get them to work. I agree.
Yeah, and it's become identifying what's missing and like coming to this call for the first time ever. Like it's got to be overwhelming because there's so many moving things and so many topics. But it has been done recently. Like Venki has identified what's missing and has plugged himself in like a number of places, and he's even part-time, right? So okay, Nathan's here now, and there's other new people coming in, and we can get feedback from them on. Because some will just ask, I can't tell where I'm needed, and so they can ask. Like we're open, and anyone can ask any questions. So if we can point people in directions and we can steer them, but they have to take the initiative to identify what's missing. Yeah, exactly, which is cool.
I think I may have said this a couple of times before, but what the main difference between this and a traditional organization is that what drives a DAO is initiative. And so we need to find people who have initiative. If you want to come and kind of join, and then you look at something that you can do and just push that. Theoretically, anyone could come to the DXDAO, be here for a couple of weeks, and then make a proposal to change something or to push something or to do something. And I think this is what really makes this thing unique compared to a traditional company. And this is what we should be looking for.
Yeah, exactly, and take the most from each working on what they want to work on. Like if I think I said it's no, but really I think you take a lot of you take a lot from someone who is working on something that really wants to work on, right? I think everyone here find a place on something they like to work and they feel identified and they pursue, that part of the organization where they want to work. Yes, you have to have then you have all the community sense on helping other workers, on helping other workers, on giving a hand if someone needs help on something. But then I think everyone here has a place where we are growing and that we are responsible for, and we are following where do we want to work on, right? Not this is a good thing here. You find a place, and if the other people find that you are useful, that you are helping, that you are providing value, awesome. But if not, okay, you got kicked out. Now we are going to see if that is going to happen with me. Maybe I'm not providing enough value and I got kicked out. But that is how it works. Which will be super sad for me. But
I don't think it's this black and white though. Like when I say someone is coming with initiative, it's not like I come with a perfect idea, I present it to the DXDAO and then I do it. That never happens. Like the value here is that you have a community, you come with an initiative, and then through that DAO, through this community, your initiative gets shaped, and then you work with other people to build that. I mean, just the famous quote from Meta Cartel that I'm not sure where they took it from, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, or something like that. So this is also an important part
also that. Yeah, and we also should be open for that initiative to change, to shape, to adapt to other requirements, to other priorities that we have. Like maybe in a year another one project is going to be dying and another one is going to be starting. That is a good thing here. That we should be open for change and shape on our priorities, and I think that's awesome. And that's what I like.
To be specific on this case, I will say that I really want to work with you on a voting app or a DAO app, but this has to be there has to be some sort of a team that works on this, because there are so many decisions to make, and this is something you cannot do alone. So yeah, this is just like, yeah, my thoughts about this. Because obviously DXDAO needs a new voting app. Alchemy is not, obviously it's not going to be, sustainable long term. And yeah.
Exactly, and anyone can come and can start helping me out. There is a lot of stuff that I need to do, and anyone who wants to work with me, he can just let me know, and if we can find a place to work together, that is awesome. I was always open for that.
Augusto, I invite you into the Omen Guild working group to work with us.
I think you need a more formal invitation, like send something over the mail to Augusto's house that he's building.
I accept the invitation. I will gladly support the ERC20 Guild for Omen smart contract development.
I think the guilds could be a huge expansion opportunity for DXDAO, and it really will be Omen who's demonstrating that capability, because it's really a whole new governance stack. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and I'm excited to see what we can build.
Right. I think if we talk about Omen Guild, it's basically the whole guild system for the DXDAO. What we do for the Omen Guild will also happen for Swapper and Misa.
Right.
Also, we haven't talked anymore about DXgov, where Sean said, and I should express that, the importance of here DXg holders. And I think this was the very whole point when we wanted to start the DXgov, and we have a DXgov implementation that it's ready to be audited, and then we can use it and we can iterate it, and we can even implement it and add it on DXtrust if we want. And I think this is something super important, where this allows us to hear on-chain opinion of DXg holders. But that kind of disappeared over the past months.
Well, that's another example. Wouldn't that be a higher priority than DXvote? And it's not that I wouldn't love to have a better voting interface, but people have talked about some of these things that have not been delivered yet, right? Like DXD Guild. We're going to need to do Omen token if we want to do Omen Guild and other stuff.
Well, on that we agree. I think DXg Guild is a higher priority than DXvote right now, and we have the contracts. But after it is audited, we can decide on where we are going to implement it, and we audit, and we add it in one of our a part of our system. But right now it's there, we haven't added anywhere else. It's there to be done, but that's something that kind of stopped.
You're muted, Chris.
I think DXD Guild is important, right? But we're in Omen. I don't know. I'm excited about Omen token, Omen Guild. We're doing a lot of work there that I think is paving the path for a lot of this other stuff.
Yeah, I think limited resources at this point, and if we can just agree to help each other, Augusto, your feedback so far on the Omen Guild has been really, really helpful, and you've been available for any questions that have come up. And I just hope, once we can wrap up this last round of questions, which is basically today, one more, and then the tech meeting on Friday, which I think we're planning for, then, hopefully, your role will be somewhat fast. And then moving on to the DXD Guild, I think I agree with you. I think that's definitely a huge priority.
Cool. All right. Long meeting. But yeah, so we got community call tomorrow and then product strategy call on Friday. So important stuff, I think, for Omen Guild, and then also Swapper Liquidity for Friday's call.